everybody. Welcome back again to Ken Tamplin Vocal Academy, where the proof is in the singing. That's right. And today's going to be really fun because, we don't have any specific subject we have to cover and some big monologue from me to you. I'm taking all your questions. So I have a stack of them that have been sent in. So I'm just going to kind of go through them as I can. And I want to first do a shout out again to my notification squad. You guys seriously rock. And it's good to be part of, your family and be on your team and on your side to help you towards great singing. I know there's a lot of people out there that just like to tune in because they like to tune in and have nothing to do with singing. They just like music or whatever, and they like to hear about, how people become good singing. Hey, Alana Beth. So I've got both Facebook and YouTube coming in right now. So I've got a gob of questions I know that I'm going to get hit with. So I'm going to take the real-time questions in a minute, but I wanted to honor the people that had already asked a lot of questions before. So I want to get to those. We've got a lot of them, and we got some really good questions. There weren't a lot of bonehead questions. It was made me have to kind of go through going, okay, how can I condense even my answers to some of these so that they're comprehensive, but don't take up all of our time. So let's see who we got today. We got Damn Yankees Review. We got the Rebel Rocker, Ravi. Hey, Ravi, by the way, Ravi Zacharias is one of my greatest mentors and apologetic mentors in the world. Look him up, Ravi Zacharias. He's suffering from some cancer right now, so keep him in your prayers. We got my buddy Bob Hohenberger on. Bob's back. Anyway, am I gay? No, I'm not gay, but I am happy. Anyway, Ruben Searle, hi Ken from Australia. Linda Gomez, greetings from St. Martin. I gotta visit that place. I hear it's really beautiful. Heidi Stuzman, LOL, bonehead. Yes, that would be me. Andrew Skinner, he's got some skin in the game. Human robot. Okay, that's a cool. I'll have to answer some of your questions like this, right? Anyway, we've got Philip Richard. Good to have you back, Philip. We've got Stefan from Denmark, South Africa, Paul from Slovak. Anyway, Sanger Sooner, Lauren Amasi. Tell me where you guys are from, man. We got Nepal here. We've got Germany going on. By the way, I'm trying to do this at a time so that you know. Pat's from Maine. At a time where Hungary, India, Jersey, cool. Where it's around the global clock about the best time I can do it. So 9 a.m. here is about 8 to 9, depending on the time zone changes in Europe. And then, Australia is 3 in the morning or 4 in the morning or something. Sorry about you guys in Southeast Asia and Japan and stuff. So some of you guys watch it on the replay. But the bummer about the replay is I don't get to answer your questions in real time. So anyway, we've got a lot. Mimi Belta from California. Cool. I'm from California. Remo from Australia. Hey, Remo, you guys rock. You're up really late. Thank you. Randy from Florida. More from India. Awesome. So I want to just go ahead and get started here, guys, because we have a lot of really cool questions to cover, and I want to make sure I get to your questions first. So for you guys that want to ask questions, please feel free to just go ahead and post them, and I'll do my best. You guys that are on Facebook, I'm going to need to go after the stream and get to your questions because I can really only answer one thing at a time, but I promise I'll get to your questions as best as I can. But I want to get to just straight out of the gate here. I'm going to go Will. Well, Will, first of all, where there's a will, there's a way. So hopefully this will be an answer to your question. Hi, Ken. My voice often starts cracking after A sharp 4, which is a nice high note. It's a B flat, right? Unless I push and make it fairly loud. I've seen singers in person singing up with high compression and grit without being that loud at all. I start cracking after a B flat 4, okay? Unless I project it and make it loud. I've seen people in person singing way up high without the loudness. Any tips, ideas? Yes, absolutely. So if you notice in my singing course, guys, I have a singing course called How to Sing Better Than Anyone Else, and I walk you through all of this stuff step by step. The first thing is the whole way you're looking at this. Now, if you're cracking in a belted chest resonance sound way up around a B flat, first of all, that's a really nice high note. So the fact that you're getting to that, kudos to you, man. That's awesome. So I want to say that sometimes as we're building the voice, it can be a little awkward and a little gawky. It's like taking your first steps. So if you need to lean into the sound and push a little bit to get to that without cracking safely, there's nothing wrong with that. It's the art of doing that is building up enough strength and muscle memory and intonation, tone and and resonance up that high to be able to come back and pull back on that sound and not have to sing so loud. But in the initial stages, you're going to find that you might want to, you're going to have to push a little bit and kind of, play with it a little bit and see how it works for your voice. But 9 times out of 10, it's a support issue. It's that you're not supporting and sustaining enough in the abdomen to sustain being able to hold that note, whether it's loud or soft. So I would blame the stomach first. Go back to my videos on diaphragmatic support. Go back to my videos on belting and watch and go through the necessary steps of that, and then come back and go through my videos on head voice and building the passaggio and all that stuff, how you can actually get into that space without having to sing too loudly or over compress the sound when you're up really high. So hopefully that was helpful. If it wasn't, please re-ask a question again, because I'm happy to continue to give you guys good information on that. Gaetano, what is the psychological thing you need to be a tenor? What's the difference to a bass? Is the larynx less big? I'm not sure I understand the way you worded the question, so let me just repeat it. What is the physiological? I said psychological. Sorry, that's probably why I didn't understand. What is the physiological thing you need to be a tenor? The physiological thing you need to be a tenor. First of all, you're born a tenor. You're not to be a tenor. You can grow into certain vocal fox. True, but it's I'm born short, I'm born tall, right? So to be a tenor, what's the difference to a bass? Is the larynx less big? Well, first of all, your larynx is your larynx. You don't grow your larynx. You can actually stretch and make strong your vocal folds themselves. So we don't grow anything bigger or smaller in that sense. And there are a series of exercises. So if you want to know how to sing lower, I have some tutorials on this already. I have 2 videos out called How to Sing Low. And we'll put that in the description tag, but just type in Ken Tamplin How to Sing Low, and it will help you understand the dropping of the larynx to, I want to know, right? So that you can understand how to go down and grab those notes, changing the laryngeal position, and then how to go and relax the larynx to a neutral or a raised position when desired. But I prefer to stay in a slightly lowered position to a neutral position in there as I'm going up, because it helps me with vocal tract shaping in my vowel mods. Okay, we've got S. John Rocks for you. Struggling a little getting the leaning into the sound concept. I have your course, but not sure how or what to lean into. Could you elaborate? Well, first, John, hopefully you sign up for my singing forums, because it lets you into the pro forums, and you can ask these questions from some very qualified moderators that are in there. We've got a new gal in there that's really doing a great job too, in addition to Bob and others. But the leaning into the sound is, as you start to develop resonance, let me just do it for you. Yay! As I start to lean into a sound, if my folds can handle it, if my stomach is supported, and if I'm not straining, and I've got a good bright timbre to my sound, I'm not over bloating the folds with too much air, but as I start to lean into the sound, I can get this desired effect that I want. A louder sound, B, a more compressed sound where I'm starting to look for distortion or shades of overdrive or compression, whatever you want to call it. And then I can gently start to develop this over time. Now, I don't want to go into this hardcore fast and furious, because I can hurt myself. So be careful, be judicious, and use some common sense as you're doing it. So hopefully that's helpful. Rock Girl 777. Can pitch be learned or is it inherited? Awesome question. I had the coolest thing happen to me this past week. Not the coolest, but a pretty cool thing. And that was, I got contacted from a guy who's in Oahu. He's in Hawaii. He may even be tuning in. If he is, please acknowledge yourself. I don't want to give away names, because I keep people's privacy private, unless they give me permission to say something. But this guy contacted me, and he took an hour lesson. And as we're going along, he tells me that he was completely tone deaf before starting my course. Now, I will be fair in this. He's been doing the course for 2.5, almost 3 years. You're going to, not 3 years. I can't wait that long. Hold on. Let me finish. He's been doing the course for 2.5, 3 years. When he first started the course, he was almost tone deaf. He continued to do the course, and then he took my advice on me saying, pick up an instrument and learn an instrument, because it will help you, even if it's just simple chords. It will help you resonate with the intonation and the tones that you want to hit, the tones on the guitar, in a chord or in a scale or specific notes. It helped him with his tone deafness. Now, let me first answer your question. You can be born with absolute or even perfect pitch. There are those guys. I wasn't one of those guys. Now, I wasn't born with terrible pitch, but I certainly wasn't born with perfect or absolute pitch. I developed absolute pitch over time. Perfect pitch is extremely rare. It's the guy that can tune a 77 key piano from his ear and get it in perfect A440. That's perfect pitch. There's about 12 of those guys on the planet. The rest of us are mere mortals. But anyway, absolute pitch, where someone can play a note or a chord and you can go, hey, that's a A flat 5, or that's a A7 chord, or A augmented, whatever. So you can pick out notes in a chord and you can develop absolute pitch. So let me get back to this guy. So he says he's in Oahu up until COVID recently. He's still there. And he said that he picked up the guitar and it gave him the ability to get intonation and pitch, right? But it did more than that. He started busking in the streets. From my course, became a pretty stinking good singer just from doing the course. No lessons, nothing. He finally took a lesson after two and a half some odd years, an hour lesson, just to make sure he was doing it right, and makes a living busking. He has a car, he has an apartment, and Oahu's pretty expensive to live in. Let me tell you, I lived in Hawaii for 5 years, and literally makes a living busking. It is the coolest thing ever, and he did it with a KTVA course. Someone that was tone deaf. All right, next one. Here we go. Nikolai. Hey, I found out that I struggle sometimes with the E sound in combination. What can I do? Excellent. Guys, you guys are giving me killer questions, man. Thank you. Nikolai, I actually talked about this, and I actually, in my course, I discussed this and show you in the vocal track extensively. And, it's funny because I did get a chance to kind of cursorily read through some of these. And so I'm going to answer another question that's in here, so I'm not going to repeat the question. Someone else had said, my vocal coach says that there is no such thing as vowel modifications, just sing. The stupidity of that is so ridiculous. First of all, quit that vocal coach. Don't even come to me, but run from that person because they flipped their lid. Anytime I shift the vocal track, ooh, ah, a, e, those are modifying a vowel. So to say there's no such thing as vowel modifications, just sing, is showing your stupidity and your ignorance. But for you, Nikolai, I want to say that I want you to think of your vocal tract, your throat, like a funnel, a gas funnel going into a gas tank. Okay, so it's going into the funnel of a gas tank. Now the ah vowel, that's why I say all vowel sounds stem from, it's the la, ah, the biggest vowel sound we have, except for e and oo. Okay, I say those are exceptional vowels, and we have to treat them exceptionally. Okay, so if we're from an ah, and we have this big big, huge amount of fluid that's coming through, in this case air, right? And it's going into a smaller nozzle, excuse me, it's going to a smaller nozzle, it's going to go, right? It's going to have a lot of mass going into a really small funnel, right? So because it's ah to e, and it's a big jump from the ah to the e, we have what are called intermediate vowels, another form of vowel modification. So we don't go ah, e, ah, e. You hear this, feel the pull and the tension in the throat? So we quickly throw an a in there. Now I teach that we never truly sing a pure E, we sing A with E in it. So I use a transitional vowel, A, A, E, to get to the E quickly. So I don't know if you guys remember when you were kids, maybe some of you still are, where we had that little toy that we had where there were like cones, and you had a big cone, and it fit into a smaller cone, it fit into a smaller cone, right? And we'd stack these things up, and sometimes you could pull on them, and they stuck together, and then you let them all loose, and it was a geometric exercise to kind of train the brain on how to fit geometrical images together. Well, so it is with the tract in the voice. So we start out with this big cone, and we want to go into a smaller cone. So ah goes to A-E quickly. I. You hear that? I didn't go I. I went I-A-E. I. Right? Till eventually, right? I can keep the throat open without choking, pinching, squeezing the throat and able to get to that vowel transition. Dan, the little man, says, how do you sing so high as a baritone? You know, that is a huge question, and I could give you a real simple, fast, cutesy tip answer, but let me say this. A lot of people think that as they grow their voice, that it's like, building muscles, and it is. Okay, it is. So it's both of this, what I'm about to say. But it's not that I just become so strong and stronger and stronger and stronger until I'm Superman, growing this crazy, powerful, muscly voice. It is some of that, for sure. But it's the finesse on how I do it. Now, you guys have heard me talk a lot about a runner's body. And I've not really truly elaborated on what I mean by that. But a runner's body is that I get so many elements of my body so cut and so fit, physically fit, that it doesn't matter what sport you put me into. It could be soccer, it could be basketball, it could be football, it could be whatever sport. Whatever that sport is, I'm ready for it because all the muscles in my body are agile enough and are prepared to take on that sport. Now, as I transition from my baritone register into a tenor register and the soprano register, there are stages involved. I'm not just a muscle man pulling weight and girth and muscle mass through the throat to muscle my way to the top. I'm finessing my way to the top. So when I'm a baritone, I sing like a baritone. When I'm in the tenor range, I've trained my voice to be like a tenor, and I've worked that muscle structure. It's a smaller muscle structure than a baritone muscle structure. When I sing in the soprano range, it's a smaller muscle structure than a tenor muscle structure. And there's a whole different compartmentalized component to the voice to get to my head voice and so forth, and build a real robust and what I say, you reinforce falsetto, a falsetto that matches the tonal qualities of my call register, my belting register, in order to be able to transition into that for one long powerful note. So I cover all that in my singing course, but that would be my answer. And fortunately it wasn't, I hope it wasn't too cursory, whatever. That word, to answer comprehensively your question. So, Mert. I wonder what is the function of your tongue position, Ken? You have a significant way of using it. Yeah, a lot of people bash my tongue. Some guy calls me lizard tongue. I'll be, I can't watch your videos because of your tongue, man. Well, it just so happens I have a video out called Ken Tamplin's Tongue. So please watch the video. It'll explain it. I'll explain it now and I'll showcase it with you. But I want you to watch. You may or may not like their voices, and it doesn't matter. They have really good technique. But I want you to watch Adam Lambert. Now, in that video, I posted Adam Lambert's video of him using the same technique. Also, I post another video of Whitney Houston doing it. Now, there's quite a few singers I can point out. I'm just going to showcase them, highlight them for now. Now, when we have what's called open throat technique, the first thing we do is we understand, well, what does open throat technique mean? Well, it means we want to create the maximum space in the back of the throat. Maximum resonance, more space, more range, all the different things, better vocal tract shaping, which is just the throat and how you shape the vowels and so on. The more that the tongue goes back into the throat, the more it constricts the throat. It cuts off oxygen. It makes you pinch and squeeze and choke to go up and gag on your vowels as you're trying to go up and grab, different vowel sounds. So we train the tongue to be level or even to the base of the jaw. See how, by the way, I've trained my tongue so much, and I get my little handheld mirror out and I look at it. I don't do it anymore, but as I was training it, to where the tongue stays to the base of the jaw, and then eventually you'll get to where you can relax the tongue enough to be completely concave to the jaw, even more space. When you are using glottal stops or looking to shape the vowel, especially in your upper register, as the tongue pulls away from the back of the throat, you get even more space, and you can actually manipulate the shaping of the vowels with the tongue minimize the amount of consonants that you're using because you're actually using the tongue to do those consonants so the back of the throat doesn't close down and spasm, because we want contiguous phrase singing, which means connecting phrases so we don't chop them up, so we have to reseat or reset up the ah vowel over and over again. So as the tongue protrudes from the back of the throat, it provides all this space. You don't have glottal stops, which are g, hung, ba, anything that cuts off airflow, contiguous airflow out of the mouth. Now, I cover this extensively in the course, but that was a pretty good answer for today's purpose. So anyway, Jasmine, Gardenia, some singers bend forward when belting high notes. Why do they do that? What's the function behind it? Good questions, guys. Straight up, man. This is some good stuff here. It's kind of funny. A long time ago, I'd love to mention names, but a long time ago, in a galaxy far away, I took from some I still do from time to time check in with some really well-known vocal coaches, but this person is the godfather of SLS. And so I think you know who I'm talking about. And I don't mean the grandson of SLS, and I think you know who I'm talking about when I say that guy. The godfather, the creator. And he had me do this way back when. And, he claimed, Michael Jackson did it, and Ray Charles did it, and Stevie Wonder did it, all these different people. And I learned that it was actually a combination of something that was done in Appoggio, which is bel canto, operatic style of singing, but is also combined with a technique that is used in the Yamaha school of singing. Now, I kid you not, this is like out of a textbook, okay? Now, why this was funny was this person is a speech pathologist, so he does have a lot of letters behind his name. So for whatever that's worth. And what I found out in studying a lot of early bel canto was the only time this was ever used was for people to identify the sensation of going up into head voice. Okay? The sensation of going up into head voice. So you'd like, right? And so as you lean forward, I'll give it that. It does give you kind of a sensation of projecting the sound into the head. Now, this is where it gets funny. Physiologically speaking, as I misspoke that one guy's question, physiologically speaking, does it have a physiological or direct physical advantage? Absolutely not. It has a disadvantage, a big disadvantage. Let me explain that in a second. The advantage is we often do things in the initial stages of learning how to sing. I do it myself. I do it all throughout the course, where we try to explain things to people in ways to get them to understand the concepts, and then we modify that into a much more usable moving away from something to get you to understand something into a real true practical application. Now, let me give you an example of this before I finish the head voice comment. Oftentimes when I'm teaching people how to connect the call register, belting call register, through segundo passaggio, the second passageway, into head voice, most people chirp. They hear the register break or the yodel in the throat, and they can't get past that. The first thing I do is go directly against the grain of what I teach when I tell people to build their chest voice, build it strong, build it loud, build it robust, get good timbre, right? Then I come back and I say, now pull way back on the sound. Come way back, almost inaudibly, to where you can connect your chest and head voice seamlessly without hearing the break. Well, that's an apparent contradiction. It really isn't. It's just another phase of how to grow a different part of your voice, okay? So, and then I also get people to bridge early, which I tell people, no, bridge as late as you can, because I assume that people would understand that the more you grow your chest voice, it's the foundation, the stronger your voice becomes, and then you hand it off later for a more powerful, robust voice, a total, complete, powerful, robust voice end to end. Well, turns out, I realized that people need a lot more hand-holding than that. So I had to develop a lot of systems beginning systems to take someone from one place to another place to another place to another place until ultimately you're at this great place, right? So that in that part of pulling back on the sound, people say, Ken, you've contradicted yourself. You say first sing loud, then you say pull it back. 1 minute you're saying bridge later, 1 minute you're saying bridge earlier. No, I'm saying for a different season in your life of how you're learning to sing, this is what we need to do first, is to grow our chest voice big and robust. Then we need to grow our head voice big and robust. Then we can bring our head voice down into our chest register. Then we can bridge early to get the sensation without building too much pressure or tension in the throat. Then we can increase the ability to stretch the chest voice on into head voice later so the chest voice stays powerful and robust. It gives us a greater expanse of mid voice from note to note, end of note values. And then I allow people to throw an H into the sound. Right? To force the throat or train the throat to stay open. I know this isn't your question, but it's hopefully you guys, this is like, wow, I'm getting so much information. This is crazy. You are. Very hard to come by, long-term, very expensive information it cost me, and by doing it myself. So anyway, so as we're going through this, we throw this little H into the sound. It keeps the throat from regurgitating or spasming and closing down, giving you that yodel, and then you can connect or understand how to train the throat to connect, to stay open. Then, as you mature in the ability to do that, you pull the air back out. You get rid of the H, and you can seamlessly connect this sound and start to grow the passaggio. Now, there's a lot more to it than this, folks, so don't think you're going to run away from this going, I've got it, I don't need to go out and study with anyone else, blah, 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 I figured it out. There's all the different vowels themselves that have to be trained per vowel through this modification process. So it's not just that you do this one little trick. You have to develop the robustness of all the vowels first, both in chest and in head, and understand the passaggio, how they connect when you bring down the vowels to smaller modifications, and. So this isn't just a quick, and each voice type is different, and they happen at different registrations in the voice type or different note values. Whew! That was a long answer to your question. But so now, as we're back, leaning forward, the head voice. Okay, I'm back to your question. As we lean forward, we constrict air. We also inhibit the ability for the abdomen / solar plexus and the diaphragm to do its job. The farther more we lean forward, you're going to find out the less strength and support that you have. So while on the one hand, it gives the sensation of leaning forward to place that sound in the head, it also inhibits the total health and ability and strength to be able to get to that sound anyway. So if you need to bend forward to understand to get to that note, get it. Back off this, get back to a good posture, get back to good, posture and support, and then reduplicate that same thing by standing up straight and looking forward. Net in, I'm struggling on how to get the resonance. I think it's clearer now, but can you describe a sensation on how it feels for beginners? Yeah, sure. So resonance is kind of a big term. It's very expansive. So when you say that, I can't just give you a one-size-fits-all answer, but I can give you a quick little insight so you can kind of run with this. Resonance is really how the voice can project with a bright, clear tone without pushing into the sound or adding too much air to the sound to get more volume. So as I've demonstrated, right? I'm not warmed up at all. It's 9 in the morning. I haven't had a chance to warm up yet. But as I lean into that, right? I'm able to lean into a sound with resonance, with resonators in the face and all these beautiful cavities that we can bring into the face, with strength in my voice where I am not having to kill it to get to that loudness. It happens because I've carefully built that muscle structure, the runner's body, over time to get me to those places to sing loudly without force or over too much effort in the sound. Matthias from Germany. Sorry, Ken, could you please give us a tip on how to separate volume, pushing the air from pressure actually needed for a clean and long note like an A flat 4? I just now did that, Matthias. I didn't do an A flat 4, but I just now did that. So what you really want to do first, though, is you want to develop a really small, bright tone first, and get that up to the A flat 4 without pushing if you can. Some people feel like they need to push a little more than others, but eventually you get to the point where you can train the throat to stay open with correct abdominal strength. and the ability to cut back the air like I showed you without getting stricture or without constricting the throat itself. Now, we've talked about that a lot in glottal compression. Maybe I just need to do a whole entire thing on glottal compression so you guys can understand it. But I cover all this in my singing course because there's a lot of stages to this. So even if I came out today and I gave you a whole hour tutorial on this, which would require way more than an hour, but let's say I did a whole hour tutorial on this, you wouldn't understand it until you've correctly built the stages. Okay, let me say that again. You're gonna go, wow, it's a puzzle. Ken gave me a 400 piece puzzle, and he's giving me a diagram for the puzzle. He's showing me a picture, and I know that I've got to put the pieces of this puzzle together, but the only way to put the pieces of this puzzle together is by time and correct maturation or maturity of the voice to get these pieces to fit correctly. So you won't even fully understand what it means until you start to get to different stages and levels of the voice where these apply, and you start adding that piece of the puzzle, then the next piece of the puzzle, then the next piece of the puzzle. And I cover that in my singing course. Will says, hey Ken, is this the same Will that asked the other question? Same Will, it looks like. I'm finding that I can speak. By the way, if this is the same Will, I want to be able to get to more people and give them a shot. So let me look at this quickly. I speak dynamically in range when I focus in the mask and visualize my resonance going into my nose, and it makes everything much more free. Can you explain it? Yeah, I just did, because you're thinning out the sound. You're pushing the sound forward. The brightness actually brings clarity in the sound. But sometimes be careful, because in singing, too much nasality can also be shrill and not a very pleasant sound to hear. JDC Crazy. When I sing really high, it always gets itchy and always gets coughs after that. There is a problem on that. I think I know what you meant by that. No, actually, yes. There is. Okay, first of all, there's lots of things that can contribute to that. But there is a term. And when we have anything that's in your esophagus, so esophageal compression. So as we go through this, there's a lot of things that in the esophagus, lower esophagus, that can contribute to that tickling feeling. I'm going to tell you how to get out of it in a minute, but let me tell you what it is. So more times than not, it's inflammation. It's postnasal drip. It's being allergic to something. It's over dryness of the area itself that is inflamed or irritated, agitated, and or it's acid reflux. Now, you can actually sing through that by not singing too loudly and start softly and training that throat, the flap in the throat, to stay open and not to be irritated or agitated, and using less air, the less air that you use. Now, you'll also notice that the higher up you go, the more this agitation occurs. So stay in a lower registration for a while and gently build up your notes until you can get to those notes where they're not agitated. But I would see a good ENT or try to figure out why it is that the agitation is there, because you're just you're not putting a Band-Aid on it, but you're actually you're overcoming it through a series of exercises that will help you, but you want to figure out why it's happening to begin with. Next question, Ford Schuler. If my voice is tired, not sore, just tired, after a day of singing, should I take it off? Well, I don't know if you're singing correctly, so I don't know if the tiredness is from singing incorrectly and being tired, because tired or the feeling that you've lost a little phonation could mean that you're starting to develop not just the bad habits, but lesions, polyps, which turn into nodes over time. So, but for the KTVA singers out there that are doing my course and are working the voice correctly with a bright ping that we've talked about, tired can be okay, and we come back the very next day and warm up the voice. If you come back and you're doing my program and you're doing it correctly, coming back the next day and warming up the voice, if you notice that the bright ping comes right back and you're able to get right back on track, you know you're in a sweet spot and your voice is growing. Just like going to the gym, you get tired, you work your muscles out. Yeah, they're gonna get tired, but you come back the next day and I feel great, I can do this again. Then you know you're in a good place. Mr. Kabasa. Do you know of any old vocalists that have crawled out of their vocal pit? Are we doomed to lose our voices as we age? Well, we're all doomed to lose everything as we age. But in answer to your question, yes, there was some humor there. You can absolutely rehabilitate your voice like any muscle group in the body. I've covered this a bunch of times, but I'm just going to give my rehearsed answer, which is The voice is a group of muscles, and like any muscle group in the body will grow. Now, maybe not as robust as like it did in your 20s, and even into your 70s, people still train for triathlons. It's crazy. So it may take you longer, but with correct information, I cover that in my singing course also, you absolutely can pull yourself out of the pit. The only time that becomes problematic and can inhibit that is if you've done some serious damage to your cords and have nodes, polyps, lesions, or whatever, or partial vocal fold paralysis or whatever, then you're going to need to get some help and go through a rehabilitation process. I have a new singing course that's going to be coming out soon. It's called Voice Repair, and you can heal from home. So that course is coming out fairly soon. I'm hoping in the next 3 weeks, and this will also help you with that tremendously. I'm not a doctor. I'm putting a disclaimer on this. I do not claim to have a medical license to practice, to be an ENT, but I can promise you that I correspond. ENTs send their patients to me for rehabilitation. So while I'm not an otolaryngologist, I know a lot about the voice and I rehabilitate a lot of voices. Zachary, I lose the ability to do vibrato when I sing higher and attempt to stretch my chest voice. How can I overcome that? Good question. Great questions, guys. Because depending on your support mechanism, when we go higher, it is harder to relax the folds. Why? Because you're stretching them. You're stretching the folds like a rubber band. The cricoretinoid and thyroid cartilage is stretching the vocal folds themselves, and it's putting them in a tense state. Okay? So the more tension, the more resistance that's in the cords themselves, the harder it is to get them to relax. Let's remember what vibrato is. It's relaxing the chords into a state of oscillation. Right? I'm relaxing into a state of oscillation. This is really important. Now, the higher up I go, the more challenging it will be to relax to that state of oscillation. So just hit those notes as whole tones for a while and hold them to where you can hold them carefully and they're not cracking or they're not feeling like building up tension in the throat. And then little by little, and again, I cover this in my singing course. I have an entire section on vibrato, and there's different types of vibratos, etc. But you can practice vibrato. And people say, you're born with vibrato. You either have it or you don't. Oh, gosh, I'm so tired of hearing people speak without knowledge and without experience. We practice vibrato. We don't walk out when they go, hey, right? We practice various different vibratos. I can give you all kinds of different vibratos. We practice them for effect. But the natural vibrato comes in naturally from a strongly supported whole tone, a note, into a relaxation response of placing that whole tone into a state of relaxation, into a state of oscillation, which, by the way, projects resonance. Notice that my voice got louder when I did it because I was able to relax into a state of resonance. I'm not working harder at the sound, and it happens naturally. You can practice it, you can develop it, you can embed it, and it will eventually take on a mind of its own or a naturalness of its own. Next question. Warren, is it possible to add distortion to a head dominant mixed belt? What in the world was that? Let me ask this again. Warren, where are you from, Warren? Is it possible to add distortion to a head dominant mixed belt? You need to decompress for the mix, but you need to compress for the distortion. First of all, that's actually a very good technical question, Warren. I should have not made fun of that. Sorry about that. My bad. When I really read what you're asking, it's a very advanced question. So let me explain it this way. First of all, we have to determine what distortion is. It's distressing the chord. Got to start there. So distortion is deliberately distressing the chord. How do we distress the chord? Well, there's lots of ways we can distress the chord. So you have to break this down one element at a time to your question. Some people just blood-curdling scream and out comes distortion. That's the way they distort things. Some people actually add a glut of air to get their distortion. Some people start out with fry and use fry to lean into it. That's That goes back to the other question about the guy with the head voice. Remember that? Fry is a good way to understand how the rattling, that rattlesnake rattling effect happens when you first start to learn distortion, but you want to get away from that sound because it's not a healthy sound over time. It's just a way to describe it so you can, psychologically, physiologically understand how to do it, and then you move away from that, and then you get into correct open throat technique with good clean vowel sounds first. Then it goes back to the other guy's question on how do I lean into a sound. Like all these questions are related, so it's really interesting, really cool. So first of all, you have to determine what is distortion. I just did. Clean distortion is harmonic resonance of distressing the chord little by little over time until it matures to a point that we can increase different percentages of distortion for a desired effect. Okay, so that's that part of the question. The next one is distortion to a head dominant, which means you're bringing your head down, head voice down, or it's in a percentage of head and chest mix. That's where the word mixed voice comes in. A percentage of head voice where you're leaning into the sound where it dominates, the head voice dominates the amount of mix, okay? So let's do it again. Is it possible to add distortion to a head dominant mix belt? Now, the term belt is really more of a term of a chest resonant sound, belting, but you just said a head dominant mix. So that's where I laughed at the question, but I get what you're asking. So it says you need to decompress for the mix. By the way, I think I've lost my beginners out there. So all you guys can just hang in there on this pretty advanced question. You need to decompress for the mix, but you need to compress for the distortion. No, don't think of it that way. That's because you're referring to mixed voice. Again, as we've built stages, there's different stages of understanding how to mix. You're thinking of mixed voice, that air is mix. Adding air is how you get to your mixed voice, and then you get somehow there's like chest compressed air, then there's head voice compressed air, and then there's all this air in the middle of mixed voice. That's the beginning stages of understanding mixed voice. That's not the advanced stages, and yet you're asking about an advanced staged question. That's sort of like saying, hey Ken, can you teach me how to, put a curtain rod on a wall that doesn't exist? Ken, can you teach me how to put a curtain rod on a wall that doesn't exist? First, you do use percentages of air in the mixed voice. Then you learn to pull back that air with the exact sensation as you have in reinforced falsetto where you've compressed the air, and a belted chest sound where you've compressed the air. Then you've created your mixed voice in a compressed sound where you have pulled back the air. You're not adding air, so there's not a glut of air. So it's all a controlled percentage of compressed air. So you absolutely can do it. You absolutely can do it in the mixed register, but that is how you work out the process. Hopefully that answered your question. Josiah, Ken, is there a way to correct a breathy tone? Absolutely. I have a problem letting too much air out when singing and even when I speak. Absolutely. Just start with really bright tones. Ah, ah, ah. Get it as bright as you can. Ah, ah, ah. And work on that closure, good chord closure like that. Don't even do it for singing. Just hold a note or sing like one long whole tone and work on compressing that sound, and you will develop and understand how to pull back that air and build the resonance that you're looking for good phonation. Paolo from Hawaii. Hi. Oh, wait. Sorry. Paolo says hi, not from Hawaii, from Guatemala. Ken, could you recommend some good vocal exercises for a very low vocal range? I can't find any and my keyboard is not working anymore. Yeah, that's an easy one, Paolo. Grab any of the exercises I have online in the alto or soprano range, but particularly a lower soprano range, and just do them down an octave. Do the exact same exercises that I'm doing for the sopranos down an octave. Now the sopranos, I start them off at like an F sharp 3 and I do octaves to F sharp 4. Just take that whole thing down an octave. So go F sharp 2 to F sharp 3, right? Or if you want to go really low, you can take that down a minor third, and that will help you. Jeff, hey Ken, did you research all the knowledge you have yourself? Do you have lots of schooling or some mentors? I have all the above. I've spent about $1 million on my voice. I kid you not, I'm not exaggerating. I've taken from some of the world's greatest vocal coaches. As I've mentioned before, a lot of them had very conflicting information, and even some of the tenets that I use in bel canto are very conflicting to things I've developed over time that are actually in opposition to some of the things that are taught in bel canto, because I know that they're true and they work. I've talked about that in my Vocal Fox series about different voice types, how, the Vocal Fox system, the operatic Vocal Fox system, once a baritone, always a baritone, once a tenor, always a tenor. And that's not true. You can actually change the different registrations of your voice, do it all the time, do it every day. Just did it a minute ago when I sang that E vowel a minute ago. So yeah, I've had tons of schooling. I've been to school for guitar, for singing, for all voice, orchestral composition. I've taken from a lot of vocal coaches, etc. I found that a lot of the actual college schooling that I've had, and I don't want to get myself in trouble to name a very, very, very well-known school, didn't do much for me. In fact, I was even asked to teach up at Berkeley voice, and I chose not to do it because I didn't want to have to be forced to be in the mold of what they expected for the ways of teaching certain things, because I feel that they're wrong and they're actually hurtful to the voice. Saniel, I guess it's Sanele, Saniel. So how can you stretch your voice to reach those incredibly high notes? Again, that goes back to my other question I've already answered, like the runner's body. It's not that I stretch until my rubber band breaks and I can't stretch anymore. It's the way I build muscle structure of the total spectrum of the vocal folds themselves. So I already answered that question. I'm going to move on. And I'll try to get to it. If you feel like that previous answer wasn't sufficient, I'll try to do a better job. Re-ask the question and I'll reapproach it. Owner, O-N-U-R, Owner says, what is a decent solution for singers with TMJ? Okay, I cover that in a video I have out. I forget which one it is, but I can't take the 20 minutes it would take to tell you about that right now. So if you could do me a favor and re-ask this question again for me, Owner, because there's a lot involved in the way a lot of people have just central nervous disorders. A lot of people drink too much caffeine. A lot of people grind their teeth at night and build up a lot of muscle tension, as you probably do, and you'll know because your teeth are sore, etc. There's lots of reasons for TMJ and how to countermand that or to overcome that. But to answer that all, one thing you can do is, you've already seen the TMJ exercises, is you can literally kind of like a horse chews. You can go. And you could do these various exercises that release the jaw, the muscles in the jaw and the jaw structure. But you want to get to the core of why it is that you're having TMJ to begin with. And it usually has to do with the central nervous system and or, something that's causing bad dreams or something you're upset about, being upset or whatever. So a nervous disorder. MSJ, how to improve a baritone voice. Okay, so I kind of talked about that. Look at my videos on baritones, guys. I'm sorry, I probably should have scrutinized these a little better. Godwin, how do you get rid of phlegm just after a nap? Well, again, guys, you want to get to the core of why you have phlegm to begin with. So I have a video. It's called "How to Get Rid of Mucus for Singing," or "How to Sing with Mucus," or I forget, something to do with mucus. I think I have 2 videos on that. First of all, get to the core of why you have mucus. Number 1. Second, the more fluids you drink, the more it will actually dilute the mucus. So that's important. Usually it's from postnasal drip. Sometimes it could be GAC coming from the stomach up and through the esophagus into the throat. But really good things you can do is a really long hot shower is extraordinary to get rid of mucus and GAC or phlegm in the throat. Humidification or putting some essential oils like peppermint in the nasal cavity will also help with that. There's some really good gargles out there. In fact, I showed one which was Perio wash. Perio wash. It's a supernatural thing you can gargle with. Or you can gargle with saline, some of the things like that, which is basically glorified salt water. But there's different things like that you can do. And then you gently start working the voice with a real bright tone, like we've talked about a million times, and that will start to clear off and clean off the cords. Adrian, hi Ken, what is more important to practice for men, chest voice or head voice? Well, like I said, you want to practice the foundation of your singing. So you want to build first a strong, powerful, robust chest voice. It's the foundation that holds up your house. You can't start adding walls and rooms to your house if you don't have the foundation. So you practice your chest voice, then you can practice your head voice, then you can learn to combine them, just like I said in that long-winded answer to that other gentleman. Metal Militia, what's your vocal range? What area of your range are you most comfortable singing in? And how do you know where to transition from chest to mix to head voice? Okay, well, those are all multiple questions. First of all, as you guys have seen, like in, what did I do when I did the Deep Purple tune, Child in Time, I belted, or not belted, but I powered out a C6. I have a 4.5, sometimes 5 octaves if I'm going down really low, but I want to talk about usable range. So I can go from a C6 to a C5, to a C4, to a C3, all the way down to a C2. Now, I could sing lower than that by about a half of an octave, but a lot of that isn't usable range. You know, the stuff down there, if I'm close to a microphone and I want to sing a bunch of bari parts, low bari parts, or low baritone parts for effect, I can do that by stacking them in a low voice like that, but I can't really do that with a lot of volume. So hopefully that answers your question. I've already talked about chest and head mix. I usually transition when I want to. When I'm warming up, I'll transition as low as a G4 until I'm nice and warmed up, and then I usually don't transition until around C sharp, D5, you know, once my chest voice is woken up and I want to wake up the full total spectrum of my voice. Sam, I noticed your tongue position. Already covered about the tongue. Richard, I still have my tonsils. If after a long practice session I end up with a slight soreness in my throat, is that soreness tonsils or sore throat? Could be both, you know, could be both. By the way, if you get your tonsils out, it actually helps with the amount of space in the back of the throat, because they are in the throat, but it can also directly affect the sound of your voice. So you got to be careful with that. It can, but chances are it's not unless you have tonsillitis or an inflammation of the tonsils themselves. So chances are it's not your tonsils, it's the way you're singing and your throat itself. If it is your tonsils, then your tonsils have issues and you should go see an ENT. Jazzman, I'm learning Take On Me by Aha. I find I can hit the high note, but it's ugly and crackly. If I keep hitting it, will it eventually sound better, or should I work on extending my mixed voice? Well, the one note that he does is pure falsetto. Whatever that note is, right? You can just practice the one note and reinforce your falsetto for the note. If that's all you're concerned about, just practice the note. This isn't a big technical thing where I want to have the full range of my head voice. I just want to sing the note. So you can actually just make sure you have good support. It's nice and bright, and just kind of do it over and over again, and you'll do okay with just that note. That's not advice for great singing, for the total sum of great singing. It's just talking about that note. Douglas, how do I know I am completely warmed up, and how to warm up properly? You'll know because it's a lot easier to sing. Typically, let me give you a real-time answer to that. When I go out to sing, whether it's here or in a live situation, I'll warm up carefully and slowly for about an hour. I do it every single day. To this day, I warm up. And then I also sing a lot with my students, so that also warms me up. But in an application for singing, which I'm assuming that's why you're asking the question about being warmed up, is I also don't just take only my warm-ups as okay, I'm ready to sing. I take my warm-ups as the pre-warm-up of being able to sing. Let me explain that. When we do our warm-ups, we don't change vowels that often from vowel to vowel. So there's no shifting in the vocal tract. We're just working one vowel, then we work another vowel, and so on. And there's no consonants in the sound, and there's no word phrases or different volumeness, meaning loud or softer, nuance that we're looking for singing. So I wait until I start to sing. I warm up, then I start to sing, and then I use my singing as the second part of my warm-up, and then I know I'm truly warmed up to sing, because I'll experience that as I'm singing. I'll know. TPXRP. I'm 59 and a sports fan, screaming. When I try to sing, I start coughing almost ASAP. Okay, so I just covered that. So that's usually, whenever we have anything to do with the esophagus, I don't know if you smoke. I don't know if it's, again, where the irritation has come from, but I did cover that already. And if you need more help on that, try to shoot us an email on that, and we'll try to help you with some more technical information. Zeno O. Can you hurt your voice by singing without warming up? Absolutely. Does the duration you sing with warming up affect like 30 minutes versus 2 hours? Absolutely. So again, the more adept that you become at this and the more you can, carefully warm your voice up over time, you should be able to sing for hours and not hurt yourself. But it's being careful in the warm up and warming up correctly that matters. So everybody says, can I warm up? Can I warm up? Well, I mean, I like this analogy I've used before. Everyone thinks that all warm-ups are created equal, and they're not. Some people might think all vocal coaches are created equal, and they're not. Not all doctors are created equal. Not all lawyers are created equal. Not all scientists are created equal. So, not all athletes are created equal, right? That's what we are as athletes. Really think of that in those terms. So if I'm a vocal coach and I tell you to run up and down that street 20 times, and by osmosis, just because you do it, you feel yourself getting a little stronger, that's not really teaching you how to sing. It's just giving you some exercises to do, and you could do them incorrectly. And over time, if you push yourself, you're going to hurt yourself. So now, even talking can technically warm up the voice if you're talking correctly, or it can do the opposite. Talking can severely fatigue the voice if you're not speaking correctly. So I also have in voice repair, but I also have another course coming out pretty soon about public speaking, and I'm going to put that out after voice repair. So you got to warm up correctly, and you should be able to do it. Take about an hour to do it, and then you should be able to sing for an hour or two after that if your voice muscles have been trained and strengthened enough to be able to accommodate that. Next question, Ruben, Ken, if I warm up at 6 a.m., then plan to do more singing at 7 or 9 p.m., should I warm up again? Actually, I've covered this before, so I'm going to give you a quick answer. Try to warm up an hour before you're ready to sing. Try to warm up an hour before you're ready to sing. If you warm up twice, you don't get the voice a chance to rejuvenate and to heal. I'm not saying if that's the only time you can practice is in the morning and then you want to sing at night. That's different. It's tougher on the voice. So I recommend warming up at around the time you're going to sing, and try to do it. The voice has a biorhythmical clock, so it likes to be warmed up at the same time. If you're a morning person, you're going to plan on singing in the morning. Give yourself a few days of warming up in the morning to sing in the morning. Let's say you're going to do morning drive on a TV show, radio show. If you sing at night, you're in rehearsal or a show or whatever, and you sing at 9 o'clock, start warming up at 7 or 8 o'clock so your voice is ready to sing consistently at 9 so it enjoys the biorhythmical clock that it has. Next question, Stuart. I got a silly question. No question's too silly, I think. I was told that male opera singers like Placido, Domingo, and Pavarotti never ever sang in falsetto. Is that true or false? That sounds like you're right. It is not silly, but it's asinine, not because you're asinine, but because whoever said it is asinine. Could you imagine going to the greatest soccer player that's ever lived and saying, "Hey, I heard that you only, kick the ball a certain way. Is it true you've never kicked the ball another way?" They're going to look at you and go, right? Of course they sing in falsetto. Is it their primary focus on growing their voice? No. I myself have discussed this. Tenors are known for their money notes, which is usually like the B in Nessun Dorma or a C in another aria. They're known to sing a belted chest note, and that's what they train for. But you can believe that they understand all about singing in falsetto and how to do it. They just don't focus on that because that's not how they get paid. All right, next one, Bradley from Austin, Texas. Man, we got a lot of things here, and I'll keep going, guys, for you guys. If you'll want to stay here with me, I'll stay here with you. So, Bradley from Austin, Texas. Ken, I found you say that it's important to find a singing instructor that sings well and showcases their students that sing. But isn't it true that most sports coaches in Major League Football, baseball, basketball, soccer, or other sports are not great players themselves, but are great coaches? Well, Bradley, yeah, actually, let me explain that, okay? That I think I even know who you got this answer from because I called them out on it. Professional sports coaches. Now, the question was, isn't it true that you could be a great coach but not have done it yourself? That's the question. And you're using professional sports coaches as your reason, your justification for that. And the answer is, you're crazy. First of all, not you, Bradley, but whoever, makes this statement. A professional coach does no training. They're not training these athletes from the ground up and making them great. They don't train talent. They manage it. Let me say it again. Professional sports coaches that don't play and have never played, they don't grow talent. They manage talent at the highest levels. So whoever were the trainers that trained these guys had to have shown them how to do it. They couldn't have just mouthed it or whatever that is. So don't confuse the two, because the term coach doesn't mean the same thing in this context. Consider retranslating that word to trainer. Can a trainer be a great trainer and never have been able to have any, abilities or knowledge in that discipline themselves? Absolutely not. They must have it at the highest levels and understand it at the highest levels. I don't see a big famous football coach saying, hey, you should have taken that step and this step, and when that guy approached you, pushed off with the right foot and then not lost your center of balance on that guy coming at you. That's already been learned. They're managing a talent at the highest levels, and they're just managing. Okay, I want you up top. I want you to pull back. I want my forwards to do this. This is the strategy for the play that I want to run. They're strategic. They make strategic plays. They don't grow and train voices. Remember that. In fact, I love the kid that did a version of How to Sing Like Ken Tamplin. You owe it to yourself. He learned from my course. He'd never taken a lesson from me. He just did my videos. And his comment on that, I was unprovoked. I didn't solicit him for this. He said that he has learned over the years that in order for him to have a mentor, that mentor in any discipline, it could be business, it could be singing, it could be sports, in any discipline, that mentor can only take him, the singer, my guy that sang like Ken Tamplin, that mentor can only take him as far as that mentor has gone themselves. Let me say that again. When looking for a mentor, that mentor can only take you as far as they have gone themselves. So whether it's some guy telling you on the internet that he's the most popular vocal coach on the internet, whether it's some guy telling you that you're going to be a great singer in 30 days, look at all these auto-tuned YouTube stars that I've got to prove it, that mentor can only take you as far as they have gone themselves. Next question, Carrie from Montreal, Canada. Ken, I contacted your assistant Zanetta, and she told me you will not sell me the portion of the course that teaches distortion only. Why is that? Because you could hurt yourself. What was your name? Carrie. Because you could hurt yourself. It's an extreme sport, and I'm not gonna be irresponsible and claim to be a zen of anything, if you know what I mean, and teach people how to enter into an extreme sport without building all the muscle structure required to maintain good vocal health. That's why. Andre from Sao Paulo, Brazil says, I've been doing the SLS program for some time. Some things have helped me and other things I'm still very confused about. Coaches I've taken lessons from do not emphasize much support at all, but push twang. Twang has really helped me in my screams, but I can't figure out how to use it when I sing. Well, that's cool if all you want to do is scream. Sorry, I wasn't making fun of you when I was laughing. So if it's very one-dimensional. I'm not going to say that twang doesn't help with a big, powerful, bright tone. It's EH. Right? EH. It's an S sound. But do you remember me guys saying to you over and over again that all vowel sounds stem from it's the la, ah, and everything else emanates from there, or it conforms to that vowel from that vowel to other vowels? So if we don't have the ah vowel, you can't go. Remember the gas thing? When I'm from an ah vowel and I go to an e vowel, I have a hard time. Or when I go from an e vowel straight to an ah vowel, I have a hard time. Well, that's what twang is, basically an E sound, E, eh, eh, eh. So it's a real pointed sound, real brassy pointed sound. If you don't develop the total open throat technique of the ah vowel, you can't transition from that vowel. What are you going to do? right? Where all your sounds are going to be from EH for eh, right? So you've got to build a big round sound, big robust ah vowel sound in order to be able to get to EH. You can do that still, or to get to an A sound or an I sound, oh, ooh, ah, and so forth. So build your vowels, guys. Don't rely on one little parlor trick or pony trick, dog and pony trick, to think that that's actually going to save you. It doesn't. I'm not saying it's not going to help you understand how to build a powerful head voice and whatnot. To at least get it. Maybe that's your transitional thing. Like we talked about the H in the passaggio, and we talked about, you know, how you go through stages of learning certain things. I guess it's okay for that, from that perspective, but get back to your vowels correctly. Next one, here it is. Michael from Belgium. I'm turning 53 years old next Thursday. Am I too old to learn to sing? Michael, I already answered that question. Sorry. Dimitri from Athens. Is there a point you learn enough about singing where that's all you need to know? Is there a point in your life where you've learned enough about life where that's all you need to know? I would hope not. Though I am aware that after age of 30, people stop becoming Philomathians, which is lovers of learning. And so they kind of dwarf themselves and they're stifled and they're stuck in after 30, they learn nothing. What I learned is that even at my age, I'm 56, you guys know, I had learned this early on. It was one of my pieces of the puzzle that I still hadn't entered a level of consciousness of understanding what it truly meant about some things I learned early on in bel canto, how the voice continues to maturate over time. And so to this day, I'm continuing to teach myself things I learned 30 years ago that I went, that's what he meant by that. When I turn 40, this is going to happen to my voice. When I turn 45, this is going to happen to my voice. When I turn 50, this is going to happen to my voice. So to this day, I'm learning different things about my own voice as I mature and get older that I have to maintain and even change and alter or work harder at to maintain even at my age. So no, there's never a time in life we stop learning. Next question, Alvarez from the Philippines. How can I sing in English if that is not my native tongue? You know, I think Bob, correct me, and my associate Bob, I think I have a video on this, and I have it in my newsletter. Guys, sign up for my newsletter because I answer a bunch of these questions on KenTamplinVocalAcademy.com. It's free, and I've got a lot of really good tutorials in there. Alvarez, I don't have time to cover that right now, other than to say that if you look at a lot of great singers, and you've got some fantastic singers from the Philippines that you can't even tell that they're singing, that their native language isn't English. And I remember sharing a story with you a while back. I lived in Italy for a while, and it was funny because there was these cover bands that were singing these covers in perfect English. It was amazing. And then when they spoke in Italian, and even when they tried to speak in English, you could hardly understand them. It was hilarious. So you learn the vowels correctly first, Alvarez, and then you modify those vowels, and then you walk through a process of how to use those correct vowels in the English language. But you could see that from, like I said, UC Borland from Sweden. You've got, some really great singers in the Philippines that are doing a great job of that already. Christian from Berlin, does your technique only work for rock singing? I want to sing rock, but I also want to sing R&B and pop. I already answered that, Christian. The question, or the answer, was talking about the runner's body. No matter where you put the body, they're going to be good at whatever style they want to sing in. Florence from Florence. Hey, Florence from Florence. I actually lived in Florence when I talked about Italy a minute ago. I live in Florence. And so what is the best advice you could give for beginning singers? Oh, big question. Grasshopper. The best advice that I could give: don't give up. It's a process. Don't think that success comes overnight. No matter if someone tells you you're supposed to be great in 30 days, don't believe that. Know that the process of singing is like any discipline. If you pick up a violin, a guitar, a piano, the drums, if you want to play a sport, if you want to get good at science, I don't care what discipline it is, understand that it's a process, and we learn through that process over time. We celebrate the things that we've accomplished and remind ourselves, like a good stock in the stock market, that if we're doing this correctly, we will see progress over time and we will succeed. That's about the best advice I can give you in a short answer. And I'm trying, maybe I should do a whole entire thing on that because that's such a big question. Mohammed from Turkey. What would you say is the difference between people that sing now and people that say sang 20, 30, or 40 years ago? Gosh, you guys, these are great questions. Jeez. Mostly, like I said, I get these like, hey, can you teach me how to sing like, you know, Patty? No, right, did I just do that? I did. Anyway, Mohammed, so let me say this. There's a lot of things that are vying for people's recreational attention. And 20, 30, and 40 years ago, not as much, especially 40 years ago. And so the difference between the quality and the caliber of singers from back then to now, and by the way, I don't live in the past, and I'm not, one of these guys that has to be in the past. I'm not saying there aren't, Dimash exceptions to this example, but I am saying that because of this vie for everyone's entertainment attention or their recreational attention, very few people are willing to want to spend the time and effort and research and discipline and what it takes to be great at something. It's not just singing, it's anything. And so singing happens to be the category we're discussing. And what's interesting about that is no matter where you look on the internet, what do you see? 20 tips for great singing. 5 hacks to this, blah, blah, blah to that. Everybody wants a shortcut, something quick, right? But there are no shortcuts to great singing. And anyone that tells you that there are lying to you. And if someone tells you they're going to make you a great singer in 30 days, they're lying to you. They're getting you in their system so that when that 30 days expires, they can say, give it another 30 days as they take your money. Well, you're doing a little better, man. Trust me, you're doing it. Give us your money again for another 30 days. And before you know it, you're 6 months in, a year into this thing, and you're saying, I've learned really very little, and I just paid for this thing for a year, and that wasn't 30 days. So don't expect 30 days. In fact, my course, I'm going to bet money 99% of you out there can't even finish it in your entire lifetime. Did you hear what I said? 99% of you out there won't be able to finish my pro bundle course that's under $300. You won't be able to finish that sucker in your whole lifetime. And if you do, you are a monster, because I even have things in there that I to this day still work on. Some of the, a lot of the coloratura stuff and a lot of the octave exercises and things I still have to go back and brush up on. So, find a vocal coach that you resonate with. If you want to really put in the time, you will get good at it with good information. Next question, Gayan Deep from India. Our country is very poor and I cannot afford your course right now. What can I do to grow my voice? Well, Gayan Deep, yeah, I'm sorry, dude. That's the reason I'm doing these things right now, is to give you guys tons of killer free information. I never got this information, and I was poor growing up. I'm maybe not as poor as I'm not being insensitive to you, Guy Deep. So please don't take it that way. But I've given you guys an outrageous amount of free tutorials on YouTube. Sign up for them. I've got tons of free tutorials in my newsletter. So sign up for my newsletter at Ken Tamplin Vocal Academy. Get on my singing forums. We've got gobs of killer free information in there. That's where I would start, Guy Deep, and save for it, dude. I mean, I had to say I was slept on my mom's living room floor for years so I could afford vocal lessons. So I understand the sacrifice, but we all make it, and that's how we get great and appreciate it when we get there. Victoria from Russia. I like to do Smule, but people make great fun of my Russian accent. Is there a way to correct us? I kind of cover that with the question in the Philippines, so maybe I should do a whole tutorial on how to sing in English. So Adeline from Croatia. I've been trained in opera for many years, but I want to sing pop and rock. What's the difference and how can I do it? Can you help? Yeah, in fact, my course is foundationally steeped in bel canto. It's steeped in opera, and I walk you using that as a foundation for the course. And in my course, I discuss this. So get my course. It'll dial you in. And I get a lot of operatic people. Bob, are you talking to me? Anyway.
You got a lot of live questions coming in?
Yep.
People would like me to...
Okay, I'm done. I'm done with these ones. I was just trying to get, thank you, Bob. Bob's saying, okay, please get you. Anyway, so let me see if there's any more super relevant ones here that I got to get you. I'll get to these. So, Bob, there's a few more that I got to get to. Thanks, you guys. Thanks for hanging out. Like I said, I was trying to get caught up on all this stuff. So let me go to the questions here. All right, live questions. Anchor, our chest voice and mixed voice both are made from the back of the throat. All of our singing is done from the back of the throat. Ruben, hi Ken. A crappy vocal coach made an attack video about you. I asked him, can you please sing? He ignored me. The proof is in the singing. Thank you, Ruben. Yeah, I mean, people will do that because they're looking to carve out their own whatevers. And, hopefully, like I said, the proof's in the singing. Let them attack, whatever. What can I do? I had another guy do that a while back, and I don't know whatever happened to that guy. Anyway, Ayush. My voice is really low volume when it comes to head voice. Can you help? Yeah, I can. Actually, you have to work at it. It's a muscle. So, really small, make it really small, do it really small and bright for a long time. Right? Just do some cool exercises real small. Just keep working at it. Make sure it's supported sound, and you'll, just like any muscle going to the gym, you'll see it get bigger and bigger. Mimi, how can I get out of my head voice? It seems to me in my family, I'm always in head voice. Mimi, that's actually usually the biggest nemesis of a soprano. They always kind of talk like this, and they always kind of sing like this, and it's really hard for them to get back down into a chest sound. I want you to try a silly practice for me. I want you to start to call out to things. Hey, you. Hi guys. And I want you to start to call out your call register and belt in the call register. Now be careful, don't go sore, don't get hoarse on me. But I want you to call out and watch your voice feel the transition of what it's supposed to feel like when you're in your call register. And then I want you to practice that at low volumes first when you're singing to bring it down into those call register notes. You can even get an instrument out and practice. Hey, 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 right? And hit different notes in the piano so that it's an intonation, it's an actual note value rather than just calling out, which is random, so that you can actually start to work on that. Arch it. Hey Ken, I am easily able to sing She's Gone, but in false voice. How can I sing at least the first two notes out of the build to chorus with my chest? You mean like on the note, girl, that note there? That's what I'm talking about building the passaggio. So first just sing the two notes, right? Work on just singing the two notes before the transition into head voice. And just do that over and over and over again, and you'll get that. And then follow all my tutorials on the building the transition of getting through the passaggio by connecting the passaggio into head voice. I cover that in my course, and I cover that in my chest passaggio head voice workouts. So go take a look at them, and sign up for my forums too. We have a lot of information in there on that. Heartless. If my throat hurts after warming up, what should I do to stop that? Well, it depends on what you mean by hurt. Is it a little sore? Why is it getting sore? Usually if your voice is getting sore, you're doing something wrong. Don't sing for so long to where your voice gets to that point or your throat gets to that point. Start with 10 minutes. Start with 5 minutes. Nice bright tone. And just wait. Come back the next day. If you can increase 2 minutes, just like going to the gym with dumbbells. Pick up 5s. Do it for a while. If you're too sore, go back to 3s. Pick up some 3s. If you can get up to 10s, do some 10s. That's how we build. Nikolai, how do you maintain open throat technique while not suffering from too much jaw tension? That's a good question. That's because most people that suffer from that are overextending the jaw. And they're overextending it. Eventually, the goal is to not have to overextend the jaw at all or extend the jaw that much at all. It's just, again, remember talked about the stages. It's the first stage of being able to train the back of the throat to stay open. Then after a while, you don't need to force the jaw to stay open. You don't need to train the jaw to stay that open. You'll automatically have trained the back of the throat to stay open. So that's a transitional thing when you move into more advanced stages of open throat technique. Talk Tech to Me says, how long have you been singing? Really, I didn't take my voice seriously till I was almost 19. I was a guitar guy. It's all I cared about was being Jimmy Page. So, but I did start singing when I was about 9, but I didn't really start singing anything seriously until I was around 16, 17. So from 17 to 56 or 16 to 56, so 40 years, 40. Kevin, hey, what's your vocal range, by the way? I just said it's five octaves. So if you start from a C6 and you work your way down to about another half an octave, 4.5 octaves, that's my range. Sour C. My teacher says I'm an alto. I will never get higher. Again, I talk about that. So please watch my video on Vocal Fox because I cover this very thoroughly in Vocal Fox. So it's a process and you need to know how to do that correctly, but I cover that in my video on Vocal Fox. A live stream. Ryan, why do some vibratos sound forced, especially when singing low notes? Well, there's lots of reasons for that. Some of it is age. Some of it is because it's not truly a relaxation response. It's a forced vibrato. Some people are doing it for effect. Some people are doing it because they have a tension in the throat and they've lost agility and freedom and flexibility in the chords themselves to go into a relaxation response. That's why. Edgar, how do you sing parts of those songs where there's too many notes that fall right on your upper mid chest? Low mixed voice, let's say E4 to A4, example, Toto's Africa chorus. Thanks in advance. Hey, I actually do that song. You can check out my version of it and you practice that. That's what the scales are for. So you actually have to practice that section to make that part of the tessitura, part of the sweet spot of your vocal folds, or your singing registration, I should say, in order to be able to accommodate that. So I had to work really hard on that, to be candid. So this wasn't something that came easy for me. I had to stretch my chest voice up to a B over and over again to make that A4 really accessible. So from E4 to A4. So that is part of your call and belting register for either a high baritone or a tenor. High tenors can hit those pretty easy, but the low tenors and high baries have a tough time. Lucci Ferry. Ken, I want to know how to control volume without affecting the tone and key. Well, by just doing it. Start out, first build your voice into a nice big robust sound like we talked about, a nice big broad sound, bold sound. And then I want you to start to practice really small, really low in volume, not small, low in volume. And then as you practice low in volume, I want you to practice transitions from low to loud to low to loud. Hey, right? So go in and out of those transitions and you'll be able to see how you can get in and out of being able to control and do that without changing tone and key. Paul, I know that I'm improving. I'm singing scales, but sometimes I feel that I don't improve in singing that much. Do you have tips for this? Yeah, I do. That's what I said. We could sing scales and become practice champions, but we've got to have a practical application for singing. So what you do is, once you're done with your scales and you're warmed up, you practice your songs with no consonants in them, just like you're singing only vowel sounds. And then you work out those vowel sounds and you start with only a verse. You don't do the whole song. You just verse. Do that verse over and over and over again. Then you do the verse and the chorus. You just do that little over and over and over again. Verse, chorus, verse. Verse, chorus, verse, chorus. And then you build up stamina through that. Then little by little, you gradually start to implement and add the consonant sounds only as you need them in order to be able to reduplicate the same feeling of what it feels like when you're doing your scales. I cover all that in my singing course. Heartless again. What do you do with a strained voice? You have to rehabilitate it. It depends on how strained. It depends on if there's actually an issue with the chords themselves or if it's just tired and needs a couple days to recuperate. I recommend give yourself 2 to 3 days off. Come back to try to work a really less volumed, bright timbre in the sound to get good phonation and get rid of the dysphonia that's happening in your voice in order to be able to rehabilitate the voice. I cover that in my voice repair course. Zena O at Ken Tamplin Vocal Academy. Any particular advice for people with asthma? I have minor asthma, but still spent much of my childhood wheezing until I got an inhaler. So I have a natural rasp as well. That's a big subject, sweetheart. I can't cover that in one quick thing because really inhalers over long term, anything. Okay, let me say this. If you have a medical condition, please see your licensed healthcare practitioner. I'm not a licensed doctor. This is just my own personal experience. But anytime you have any kind of inhaler or inhibitor or anything that has a steroid in it at all, Flonase is one of them too for sinus and so forth, that is not good for you over time. It's not good for your kidneys. It's not good for your liver. It actually shrinks the vocal folds themselves. It shrinks the actual catacomb, what's it called? lining in the walls of the stomach. I'll think of the word in a minute. But anyway, so it actually can cause issues over time, but asthma is nothing to mess with either. It's can be life-threatening. So I actually recommend getting some naturopathic ways of getting your breathing in a better place rather than relying on a steroid to do it for you. And you're going to find that the more that you're able to increase lung capacity without the inhaler, the more that's going to work for you. Please send us a specific email on this, and I'll try to get some information out to you on that. That's going to be a little more comprehensive than this answer. Yami Dragon. Let's see what it say. I passed it. Yami Dragon Master. I tore my throat to hell and back in the Marines. How do I get past that? I need to be able to sing so well, but I feel really limited. Yami, do me a favor. I'm going to have a course out called Voice Repair. Get it and see if it helps you, because that's such a big question. Who knows what damage you did to your voice? I don't know if you got strobed and what your chords actually look like. So you need to start there with an ENT, and then you need to get on a good rehabilitation program for that. But it is doable. I have so many people that have had nodes and polyps and lesions that have all come back from healing, and then ones that have surgery that have come back from healing. So I've been fortunate to work with some of the world's greatest otolaryngologists, and that's precisely what we do is we come back for rehabilitation. Angelo Alvarez. Hey, is that the same Alvarez that asked me the other question? Angelo, are you the same guy? I'm having trouble with my high notes. Is it true that I could make small steps by singing in falsetto? Thanks a lot. Yes and no. I mean, it depends on how much of a belted sound that you want. I recommend making small steps to grow your chest voice, then growing your head voice, and then combining them them together to one seamless note through the passaggio. Dai Nguyen. Singing too much caused my lost voice, and it took me 2 years to recover till I am working with your free lessons and I grow it again. But still, my voice just lasts for 5 songs. I just practiced for a month. Well, I mean, you said you lost it for 2 years and you're getting it back. Again, without hearing you specifically, everyone's anomalies and injuries and whatnot are very specific to them and their backstory. So without hearing and getting to work with you specifically, but again, I do have a course coming out. It's going to be very reasonably priced called Voice Repair. I recommend you consider getting it. S. John rocks for you. Didn't I just do one from you too, S. John? I think a couple of you guys are like sneaking in extra questions here. I'm going to close this up here pretty soon, guys. Are there any specific exercises that help recovery of less elasticity from years of smoking pot? Actually, there are. You don't do it just through exercise. You do it through diet. And we need to get back a lot of the moisture in the folds themselves. So that comes through, we talked about glutathione. In fact, I discussed that in the last thing I had, my last live stream. But there is in the diet for singers. I want you to revisit my last live stream and start there. And then you start my exercises that are in my voice repair course. Guys, I'm going to wrap it up. I know I've got more. I promise I'll save these extra questions for next time, but like I'm already an hour and 25 minutes of answering questions. So I really tried to do my best, and we have a lot of really excellent questions. So I promise I'll do my best to get to them. Bob is like pointing to one that I should answer. Is this Gillian? Gillian. All right, I'll answer one more here. Gillian, hi Ken. When do you decide that you can be confident in your voice? No voice is omnipotent, even if retrained. What does it mean to be proper singer? What makes a singer actualized? Those are some interesting note choices. So I don't know if you're, again, your mother tongue is English. By the way, a singer is only a singer because they have the guts to be one. You've heard me say that before. I'll say it again. A singer is only a singer because they have the courage, they have the guts to be one. So when you say that, you're never going to get to a point where not all of us get to be Dimash or Ken Tamplin or whomever, because we have not spent the time and the effort and the resource and everything that goes into that. However, a great singer to you may mean something different than a great singer to me. But a great singer is one that goes out and enjoys and expresses themselves and shares their story with confidence because they love it. They do it just because they love it. Now, are you so bloody awful that no one wants to hear a note that comes out of your mouth? Then we go through a training process to where it's palatable, or you develop it enough to where people will want to enjoy your story. And I covered that in one of my live streams. Also, Bob will put that live stream in the description, and he'll make a reference to that, I hope. So anyway, thank you guys for joining me. God bless you, and I look forward to getting more of your questions. I'm happy to answer them. You all gave me excellent questions today. And until next time, gang, God bless all of you. Peace Out.